Nothing is a bigger sensation in video game collecting than that of rare games. People are always trying to figure out, who has the most expensive collection, who is able to locate the hard to find gems, who is able to just throw the most money away. And while I personally don't subscribe to the idea of buying video games just because they're rare, there was one game that was an exception for me. A game so rare, so elusive, that I just had to own it. That exception, of course, being this, Sukeban Shachu Rena. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, why? Which is a fair question, and the answer is simple. I can barely find any information about this game online. On YouTube, there have been a whopping 5 videos uploaded about this game within the past year. The Wikipedia article doesn't even take up half the screen, and looking up Sukeban Shachu Rena on Google brings up an eBay listing, a Reddit post, and plenty of reviews that have nothing in them. You would think there are at least some people seeking this game out just because it's rare, but no, this game has no people talking about it, no people showing interest in it. This game has almost been completely lost to time. And my curiosity could not handle that. So I scoured the internet for a copy, picked it up, played it in its entirety, and made this video so I could document this game and tell you the story on how I beat the rarest Wii game ever. But before we get into the game itself, we need to go over what I could find online. Sukeban Shachu Rena roughly translates to Female President Rena and was released for the Nintendo Wii on October 22nd, 2009, exclusively in Japan. This is an action game, it's more like an arcade game, that was developed by Deerfield and published by Joyudon. Now, I don't expect you to know who these companies are because they've only worked on Japanese games, but I figured we could take a look at what they've been up to, just to get an idea on what to expect from this game. Okay, starting with Deerfield and, this was the last game they developed. They're completely defunct now. And looking up Joyudon, it seems this game caused them to have a psychotic breakdown as they've completely switched from publishing video games to schizo posting about trains on Twitter. The trains. Yeah, this game didn't exactly light up the sales charts. In fact, Sukeban Shachu Rena would only go on to sell 100 copies within the first 2 weeks of its release, with it selling less than 500 copies in total. That means this is by far the worst selling Wii game of all time, which explains why it's so rare, and it explains why I can't find any more information about it. That's it. This is it. This is literally all I can find. Nobody has played this game, so nobody is able to provide any information about it. But obviously, I own this game. Any questions I still have, I can answer myself. So enough beating around the bush. Let's load this bad boy up and figure out what it has in store for us. Oh, wow. Yeah, I just want to reiterate this game is only in Japanese and I can't read Japanese. You'll see later on that makes this game needlessly difficult. But I'll be giving you basic overviews of cutscenes and gameplay based on Google Translate in any context the game provides me. That being said, I'm really sorry if I misinterpret something, and also please note I didn't understand anything being said while I was playing the game. Sukeban Shachu Rena starts off by letting us know that in this world, cats talk normally. Cool, I feel like we could have figured that out on our own, but I get it, no room for confusion here. After that, we're shown an ad for a job and are thrown into our first cutscene. This is Rena, and in this game is the CEO of Cat Queen Incorporated. But fun fact, Rena is actually the face of a popular blog in Japan called Neko Punch. Let's see what they're up to now. Oh. Well, at least Cat Queen is still up and running. In fact, the company is doing so well that Rena is looking to hire a new employee. This is where our character receives the job ad and makes his way to Cat Queen to get the job. We show up at the office and are told we can be interviewed right away. But first, we're asked for our name. I was trying to look for the English characters, but somewhere along the line, I accidentally named myself --BRF, and I said fuck it and kept it. We'll call him Burf for short throughout the video. At the interview, we meet Rena's other employees, Aito and Yamada. Don't worry, that's all you need to know about them. During the interview, Burf is asked about his dreams, and his ultimate dream is making a cat toy. I'm not gonna judge, I'm literally making a YouTube video. That statement is enough for us to pass the interview. But there's more. In order to get hired, we must complete Rena's practice test, which consists of 3 different minigames. In order to pass, we need to get high scores on all of them, though we can attempt these minigames as many times as we'd like. This right here is our core gameplay loop. We'll watch a cutscene and then we'll play a minigame. Cutscene, then minigame. Cutscene, then minigame. You get it. I'll talk about each minigame in depth as they appear and then break up the monotony with the story bits. The first game we'll start with is called Piano. This is a simple rhythm game where you shake the Wiimote on the music notes and shake the nunchuck on the nunchuck note. The closer you are to the rhythm, the more points you get. get enough points, and you pass. Now, I feel like this minigame should be easy enough, but no. It's not. Sukeban Shachu Rena has a lot of trouble reading your Wiimote movements. And this, combined with the fact you have to shake your Wiimote on specific beats, it just doesn't work well. To explain, you can't shake your Wiimote a little bit because the game won't register your movement and you'll miss the note. So you have to extend your range of motion. Let's say this is the downbeat you're trying to hit. The game might register your movement halfway through the swing, which will also cause you to miss the note. And whether your swing registers here, or here, who knows? And this isn't even mentioning the nunchuck or talking about when there are a bunch of eighth notes back to back to back. All of this is to say, I fucking suck at this mode. I promise you, I'm doing everything perfectly. But even if I'm not, and it is my fault, it's still just an okay minigame. The shaking the Wiimote on beat thing just isn't too interesting. And having to replay this game multiple times is a slog. This one minigame goes on for 3 minutes, and if you don't get enough points, I hope you're ready to listen to it again and again and again. This minigame sucks, and this isn't even how you play the piano in real life. In order to do that, you need the Wii wheel attachment.
Why isn't this working?
The next game on our list is called Jump. Your goal for this minigame is to dodge the cats jumping towards you for 60 seconds. This is done by tilting the Wiimote left and right, which will cause Burf to duck in the direction you're tilting towards. Successfully dodge a cat, and you'll get points. If a cat hits you, you'll fall down and lose a bit of time. Sometimes Rena will spawn, and if she does, you'll want to catch her. This is done by moving the Wiimote to a neutral position and pressing A. Out of all of the minigames here, this is definitely one of the better ones. Simple enough concept to grasp, but can get pretty difficult when you have a stream of cats flying towards you. A pretty solid game. I don't have much else to say about it. The final minigame we have for this test section is called 4-Character Idiomatic Compound? What the fuck happened to Jump and Piano? What is this game even about? Oh, fuck, I have to answer questions. Okay, when looking this up, I found that this game is actually called Yojijo Kugo, and I'm gonna be honest, I still have no idea what this is. Even using Google Translate on the questions, I don't know what this is asking for. All I know is this has something to do with idioms, which have to do with language. Dude, I took my last language class online. Over 2 years ago. In English, not Japanese. I have no idea what any of this shit says. Okay, even if I can't understand this minigame, I understand its gameplay, if you can even call it that. You're just answering questions. This isn't fun or engaging at all. And I'll elaborate on this later, but there are a lot of questions. I just don't understand why the developers would put so much time and effort into this minigame when they could have put that into any of these other, far more intriguing minigames. You only have 60 seconds to get 4 questions right, and every time you get a question wrong, you lose 5 seconds. I went with the tried and true C method, where you just guess the third option every time, and I was able to beat it in 2 attempts. That one could have taken a while if I didn't get lucky with my guesses. I just really hope we don't see this minigame again. Cut the video. After finishing up that last minigame, Rena tells us that we have passed the exam, and now we must move on to employee training. But before that, we get introduced to the Let's Go 3, which are 3 cats that Rena looks after. There's Shensu, Pro, and Cherry. These 3 are important. Well, not important. More like these 3 will be mentioned again, which is why I'm bringing them up now. Anyways, we meet up with Aito and Yamada and get started with training, which means, as you probably guessed, more minigames. First, we'll start with gymnastics. All you need to do is match the action that happens on screen with your Wiimote and nunchucks. The closer you are to the action on screen, the more points you get. And if you don't get enough points, then you fail the minigame. It's pretty easy, but at some points it's super hard to follow along. Like here, the game is telling me to bend over and look down. How am I supposed to do that and look at the screen? And sometimes the character on screen, which, by the way, is not me, so what does this have to do with the actual story? They move around so fast that I can't follow along. Luckily, the developers identified this might be a problem and provided a nice solution. You can just do this. This is real footage of me playing the game. Did I mention this game sucks? Sukeban Shachu Rena falls under the category of shovelware, which, as defined by Wikipedia, are low-budget, poor-quality video games released in the hopes of being purchased by unsuspecting customers. And shovelware was a big problem for the Wii, mainly due to the giant casual consumer market. The Wii was a phenomenon. Even if you didn't play video games, you still owned a Wii. And since those people didn't know a lot about video games, they wouldn't be able to tell if a shovelware game was good or bad just by looking at it. And by the time the customer purchases the game to find out, the companies would have already ran off with their money. This was a super scummy tactic. But thankfully now, since the average consumer is more knowledgeable about video games, shovelware isn't as prevalent as it used to be. Right now, it seems their victims are parents buying video games for their toddlers, and fuck it, We could steal from them. They obviously don't need the money. But these shovelware games were a dime a dozen for the Wii. They were everywhere. You could turn a corner in the produce aisle of a Walmart and see Deal or No Deal sitting next to the bananas. There's only one reason why we are talking about this game today and not any of the other shovelware games for the Wii, and it is because nobody bought it. Do you want to know why nobody bought it? This game came out 3 years into the Wii's lifespan. Consumers were already well aware of these shovelware games and knew that if the title didn't say Mario or Wii Sports in it, stay away. The fucking Eminem's Kart Racer game came out 2 years before this. People were done. It is so ironic that if more people had bought this game upon release, we would not be talking about it now. So make no mistake, this game is not some crazy hidden gem. This is a failed cash grab. The shitty motion controls, the cutscenes which are 90% padding, the crappy, half-baked minigames, every bug, glitch, error, it is all by design. When your goal with creating a video game is to make as much money with as little resources as possible, this is the kind of product you can expect. This game is 1/3 minigame, 1/3 cutscene, and 1/3 bullshit. Like when I say I'm paraphrasing these cutscenes, I really am taking the most important information out. This cutscene spends 5 minutes talking about toys. This shit does not matter. I'm never going to mention toys again in this video. And that's just talking about the cutscenes. You know, the things that are supplemental to the actual game. The minigames themselves, like you've been watching the video. The only time I really talk about a minigame is when I have a major problem with it. And when I do come across a game that isn't broken, or in my case, downright unplayable, it's just okay. For example, let's look at the next game on our list, Drive. Your goal in this game is to drive Rena to her location as fast as possible. Rena's car is powered by Necomatter, which is spread out all across the screen, and it is collected by using the Wiimote pointer and pressing B. After collecting enough matter, you can press Z to boost and go faster. From there, you use the analog stick to dodge obstacles, and you tilt the Wiimote when the game prompts you to turn. Wow. This game is actually a lot more in depth than the other games we've played. You don't just have to focus on one thing. You have to focus on the road, your boost meter, your cursor, the Necomatter, and the turning prompts. There's so much going on. Except there's so much Necomatter that your boost meter is always going to be up, so you don't really need to focus on that. The obstacles in the road, which are only traffic cones by the way, barely slow you down, so you don't really need to worry about dodging those. And if you miss a turn, sure you have to drive a few hundred extra meters, but that equates to you losing an extra 5 seconds, and that's not a lot of time when you have 90 seconds to complete the course, and it only took me 45. So this has gone from a decent looking minigame to nothing. No parts of my brain are being stimulated. You've taken out all of the challenge and therefore most of the fun. And with this minigame being as surface level as it is, it's carried by the fact that Rena is holding a vacuum on the back of the car. There has to be at least one good minigame here. This game has to have some sort of redeeming factor, right? Right? Yeah, it's called bonus. Dear God, this minigame is fantastic. Your goal is to grab as much money as possible in 60 seconds. You do this by extending out the Wiimote, pressing A to grab the money, and then pulling the Wiimote back. There are also 2 cats here. The cat on the left will occasionally jump in the air and fall down. If the cat falls down while your arm is extended out, he will grab onto you and you'll have to shake him off, making you lose a bit of time. The cat on the right will occasionally look back and forth. If the cat looks at you while you're reaching out, she will scratch you and you will lose a bit of your money. Grabbing money consecutively will grant you a combo, which gives you more money every time you grab it. Though, if either of the cats attack you, you will lose your combo. This minigame is perfectly executed. It isn't difficult at all. It only took me 1 attempt to beat it, but it doesn't need to be for the game to be engaging. I replayed this because I wanted to get a higher score. All they needed to do to keep me hooked was add some obstacles. The combo meter only acted as further incentivization. The happiness I get when I'm pulling away my money, the anxiety I get when I'm reaching out and the cat almost sees me, the frustration I feel when I get attacked and lose my combo. This game has it all and it is absolutely thrilling. I do have to mention the motion controls. Once again, this game has a hard time reading my movements. I will be shoving the Wiimote into the sensor bar's mouth and it will still say my arm isn't fully extended, but I'm gonna look past that because I'm having fun. Whoever came up with this idea, mwah, chef's kiss. I applaud you. This isn't even just the best game in Sukeban Shachu Rena. This is just a good minigame. Period. After completing our training, we meet up with Rena by the window, who we see fawning over another cat. It's hard to be serious about this. This game is so ridiculous. The cat's name is Tamaki and is owned by Tenshindo Shoji, one of Cat Queen's business partners. After getting her attention, she tasks us with our temporary assignment, as we have become a contracted employee. The first thing we need to do is take care of Rena's cats. You know, the Let's Go 3? I said I was going to mention them again. Okay, now we're moving on to the next set of minigames, and what the fuck? Okay, so I don't know why it threw us straight into a minigame, but I assume I either need to find the right cat or the number of cats. There's an indicator in the bottom left telling me to press the B button, so I'm doing that, but nothing is happening. What am I supposed to do? I'm spamming the B button and it's not fucking working. I'm gonna run out of time. Whatever, I ended up failing, and the only thing that happened was that this cat attacked me, and we move on to the next section. Here we have two returning minigames, Jump and Piano, except these games are a bit harder and you have to get a few more points to pass. Also, Piano has a different song for you to play along to. Not much to say about these games that I haven't before, though Piano took me a few more attempts to complete this time. Fuck this game. The final game for this temporary assignment section is a new one, and it's called Care. Okay, it looks pretty simple. It seems like I need to pick up the blocks and move them to guide the cats around. I'm sure I can learn along the way, and you've gotta be fucking kidding me. Okay, after failing another attempt, it turns out that I need to press the A button, not the B button, which in all fairness, I should have at least tried before. The text up top says, find the real one. So I was right. You press A on the cats and try to find the real one. So after finding all three cats, we move on to the actual Care minigame. For this, you need to pick up the cats and drag them over to the food. I mean, that's really it. Once again, it's not difficult. The hardest part was the first 30 seconds where I had no idea what I was doing, but after that, it's just more mindless stuff. I'll leave it at that. After completing the temporary assignment section, we become official employees at Cat Queen Incorporated. Though, we're still not done with this game. We come into work early the next morning and see that Rena is the only person there. She starts to talk to us about the company, the employees, and finally mentions the dream she had. This sends us to our final minigame. Tightrope. For this minigame, your goal is to make it to the end of the tightrope before the timer runs out. You do this by slightly tilting the Wiimote left and right. If you tilt the Wiimote too far to one side, your character will fall off and you will need to restart from the beginning. There are also some obstacles you will need to dodge, namely a strong wind and flying cats. If you don't deal with these accordingly, you'll fall off. This here is another fantastic minigame. First of all, I didn't have any issues with the controls, which, yes, is an accomplishment for this game. Additionally, the controls were super responsive. Whenever I would tilt my Wiimote, my character would tilt in that direction right away. Doing this put the entire minigame in my hands, meaning when I died, it was 100% my fault, and I could not be happier about that. And I died a lot. This minigame is easily the most difficult out of all of them. The wind will definitely knock you off if you're not careful. But I was ecstatic to try a level again in order to beat it. My only complaint is, because of the timer, if you get knocked off and you have like 30 seconds left, it's not enough time to make it to the other side, so you have to wait for the timer to run out to try again. Overall though, this minigame is fantastic. I still think bonus is better because the concept of getting as much money as possible in 60 seconds works as a better minigame than make it to the other side. But if Tightrope was a shitty mobile game that played an ad after every level, I would play the fuck out of it. After that dream sequence, we meet up with Aito and Yamada. Rena starts giving out tasks for the day and initially bestows the piano playing task to Aito, but since he has, actual work to do, Rena puts that task on us, and also decides that this is a good time for Burf to hone his skills as a worker. So we get started with our next assignment. Oh shit, we have the minigame gauntlet. Here we have to play through 7 minigames, which is all of them besides Care. I thought that was kind of weird. But all of these minigames are harder, we have to get new high scores, and the idiom minigame is making its foreboded return. There is no doubt about it. This is Sukeban Shachu Rena's biggest challenge yet. 15 minutes. It took me 15 minutes to beat all these minigames. The idiom minigame took me 1 attempt. The hardest minigame was the fucking piano. I'm shaking it on beat, I promise! Man, all that foreshadowing about this minigame earlier in the video just for me to beat it in 1 attempt. I guess you can't believe everything you see on the internet. After completing the gauntlet, Rena has an idea to throw a celebration for Burf becoming an actual employee. We call in Aito, Yamada, and the Let's Go 3. But Shensu doesn't show up, and nobody knows where he is. We do a little search minigame and nobody is able to find him around the office. Though we get a call from Yamada saying to come to the president's room. We get there and she points out a note that was placed on Rena's desk, and its purpose was to lure Shensu away. And the orange hair left on the note can only mean one thing. This note was written by Tamaki! I mentioned him earlier, remember? So, in order to find Shensu, we must decipher the note and solve a 4-character idiom. No. 45 seconds? In the beginning said 10. I need to get 10 questions right in 45 seconds? Why? The cat isn't going anywhere. This is fucking ridiculous. Like I said earlier, I have no good way of answering these questions. I can't read Japanese. I don't know anyone that can read Japanese. And using Google Translate just equates to gibberish in English. So yeah, I failed the minigame. We get another cutscene where the others try to look for more clues, but they're unable to find anything. We get one more shot of Shensu and... title screen? Wait, that's the end? That's how the game ends? Just a fucking vignette on this cat? Really? Yeah, so it turns out this is the bad ending of the game, which is crazy that this game has a good and bad ending, but I digress. To get the good ending, we need to beat this idiom section. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I gave it a good 20 attempts and I'm not making any progress. So I figured I would find a clip of the ending online and just throw it up here, but that's when I realized I can't find a clip of the good ending anywhere. I scoured the internet for a good 10 minutes. There's not a lot of stuff on this game. And genuinely, there is nothing. All of the walkthroughs I watched ended here. None of the reviews of this game mention anything past this point. This is where everyone quit. So if I could beat this section, I could be the first person to post the ending of this game online. I mean, this game came out before people were posting Let's Plays on YouTube, and considering how many people bought the game in general, it's not far-fetched to believe that I could be the first. If someone didn't beat the game 3 years ago, God damn it! But even in this video, he didn't really talk about the ending, he kind of just skipped over it. So for the sake of my video, I need to get an answer. How does Sukeban Shachu Rena end? With that, I got to work. And let me tell you, when I said earlier this minigame had the most content, I was not lying. After my C method proved ineffective, I devised a plan. I started taking pictures of every question. I would then guess the answer, and if I was correct, I would circle the answer, and if I was wrong, I would put an X over what I had guessed. Rinse and repeat for every new question I saw. If I came across a question I had seen before, I would have the answer on my phone and I could answer it correctly. This method relied on the fact that I would eventually see every question. I had assumed there would be 20, 30, maybe 50 questions? I mean, the rest of this game didn't have that much content, so this single minigame can't have that many questions, right? Well, I took pictures of over 100 questions, and I was still seeing new questions pop up. In fact, I had only seen a question repeat once. One time. Every other question was new. After my 150th new question, I kind of got discouraged, so I threw that method out the window, meaning I was back at square one, with no strategy and no progress to my name. So, I had no other choice. I bashed my head into this minigame, randomly guessing on answers, and kept failing and failing and failing. But after, I shit you not, 4 fucking hours, I finally got 10 questions correct. After completing the minigame, we move on to the next cutscene. I stared at the screen for a few minutes because I was in absolute disbelief that it was over. The deciphered idioms reveal 10 seemingly random words and phrases, but we find out the numbers in each phrase points to a letter, and after laying those letters out, it spells Tenshindo Shoji, one of Rena's business partners and the owner of Tamaki. So we make our way over to their headquarters, and after a quick drive minigame, we arrive at Tenshindo Shoji's and make our way inside to confront Tamaki. Which leads us to the moment we've all been waiting for, the final cutscene of Sukeban Shachu Rena. After all these years, we will finally unveil what's at the end of this game. So let's not waste any more time and jump right into it. I have no idea what this says. When we get inside, Tamaki says while he did try to lure Shensu to his offices, Shensu never showed up. In that same moment, we get a call from Yamada who says Shensu is back at Cat Queen and that we should make our way back as well. So, all of this was for nothing? We make our way back and meet up with Shensu. We ask him where he's been, and he says he attempted to solve the puzzle but got frustrated, so he went to the roof to cool off. I spent 4 hours solving this puzzle just for you to be upstairs the whole time? You couldn't come down at all? Anyways, we have the celebration. And after the party, Berf and Rena make their way into her office, where Rena tells us that we've done a great job in the time we've worked there. We take the compliment, and then Rena lays it on us. She wants Berf to become the acting CEO of Cat Queen, and asks if we will take the promotion. We immediately say yes, and with that, we celebrate, roll credits, and get kicked back to the title screen. And that's pretty much it for this game. I mean, after beating it, we unlock hats for Rena to wear in cutscenes and such, which is pretty cool. And we also have the option to play just the minigames and go for high scores, but other than that, we reached the end of the game and made it to the top of Cat Queen Incorporated. But doesn't that feel underwhelming? Like we make it to the very end and we don't even get to be CEO, just acting CEO? We don't even get to be at the very top? It doesn't feel right. It feels like there should be more. It feels like this game isn't over. It feels like this game has a third ending. That's right, a third ending. After booting up our old save file, we meet up with everybody the next morning, and we are tasked with our duties as acting president. So more minigames. We are then presented with the final gauntlet of minigames. 7 of Sukeban Shachu Rena's hardest challenges meant for only the most hardcore of players. These actually were kind of difficult, especially with the idiom minigame putting its ass cheeks in my face again. Thankfully though, I only needed to get 8 questions right in 60 seconds, so it was much easier than before, and it only took me about 25 minutes or so. But the piano minigame was still a fucking bitch and a half. It took me about an hour to complete all of the minigames, and after that, we were rewarded with a new hat for Rena. We are also thrown into the actual last cutscene of the game, where Rena says she has a big announcement. She says she's heading overseas to open a new branch of Cat Queen Incorporated in Italy, and because of that, she's leaving Berth as the president of the Japan branch. The team tearfully says their goodbyes, Rena leaves, and credits roll once again, leaving us in charge. Though, there's still one more thing. At the end of the credits, we are left with a collage of pictures of Rena in real life, and one final message from the publisher, which is roughly translated as the following. On February 3rd, 2009, President Rena passed away. Thank you for all of the smiles and encouragement. Please continue to watch over us. From Joryudan. Huh. You know, this message kind of puts the game in a new light for me. I had always thought Rena was just some niche celebrity and this game was a shitty attempt to capitalize on whatever popularity she had, but what if this game is more than that? I think it's important to look at games from a critic's standpoint, but it's equally important to look at games from a player's standpoint. Looking at this game objectively, yes, it is terrible. This game has barely any story, let alone one that is cohesive. The cutscenes are very padded out. This game has 3 songs that loop constantly. Minigames are either buggy, broken, or boring, and there were only a few minigames that were actually intriguing. But as a player, I can't say I didn't have fun. Even with everything I said earlier in the video, I can confidently say I had some fun while playing. The concept of the game is so outrageously absurd, and the cutscenes are balls to the walls fun. Even though I can't understand a single thing being said, this game's charm can seep through the language barrier. And the minigames that were well made were really well made. Bonus and Tightrope were tons of fun, and the bugs just made for some hilariously infuriating moments. And with the other minigames, like that's a cat on the back of a car holding a vacuum. That's fun. That's funny. That's funny. Even with the piano minigame, it was frustrating for sure, but I went back and replayed it multiple times. I want to clarify though, this game isn't a masterpiece. Far from it actually. It is terrible. But I also can't say it wasn't unenjoyable. Sure, we can remember this game as what it is. Low quality shovelware. Nothing less, nothing more. And we just toss it into the endless pile of other shitty Wii games. But as a player, I want to remember this game as something more, the way the publisher intended. A project to honor the life of a cat in a unique, fun, and interesting way. So if you see this at a game store, I want you to know it isn't just shovelware. It's a set of mini games packaged with hilarious moments that can be completed in an afternoon, if you know Japanese. And knowing you're honoring a life that touched so many people, and knowing that you have a rare piece of gaming history in your collection, may be enough to justify that $20 price point. Except this game is selling for upwards of $1,000 on eBay. Do not buy this game. It is not worth it.